You're a victim to your bad habits. You cause your own suffering. You feel like a failure. You cower in the face of fear. You make social mistakes. You relapse into your addictions and you hurt other people through your actions. All of which creates the feeling of guilt and shame. Guilt is based on what you do. Shame is based on who you are. So the sequence plays out. You feel guilty. You feel uncomfortable because guilt isn't a very nice emotion to feel, so you lean into your bad habits to give you short-term relief from the discomfort of the guilt. And the self-destructive cycle of your self-sabotage plays out. So why is it important to forgive yourself and learn how to manage your guilt? It's because if you don't, you are going to have a terrible relationship with yourself. You are always going to self-sabotage. You're never going to be able to change your behavior and you will always be your own worst enemy. So we're going to learn how not to do this right now. First up, what is guilt? Guilt is an emotion that arises from your perception that you've done something wrong, leading to the feeling of anxiety and pressure. The anxiety stems from the prediction you have that something bad will happen, such as other people might judge you, you'll be disliked, you'll lose your status as a good person, or whatever identity you uphold. The pressure arises from your desire to fix the situation, to find a solution, apologize, or make things right in order to feel relief. Essentially, think about guilt in terms of rules. You feel guilty when you break one of your rules. But there's a difference between healthy and unhealthy guilt. First of all, healthy guilt activates when you've broken a reasonable rule you agree with. Unhealthy guilt activates anytime you break any rule, regardless of whether that rule is unreasonable or not. Healthy guilt is experienced when someone is hurting in direct response to your action. Unhealthy guilt is experienced when someone is upset, regardless of whether your action caused it or not. Short-lived, healthy guilt, is short-lived with a clear path to correction. Unhealthy guilt is long-lasting with no clear way to make amends, and it's also plaguing you with shame. Lastly, healthy guilt is constructive and it guides your future behaviours in terms of what to do or what not to do. Unhealthy guilt, its purpose is to punish you, and it has an abusive quality to it. Let me see if I can illustrate this. Brilliant. Instead of illustrating, I've completely marked the whiteboard. Oh. Healthy guilt acknowledges your error without intensifying or downplaying it, and it clearly outlines what action you need to take now to rectify it, all without abusing or tearing yourself apart, as unhealthy guilt would do. How dare you, you failure? Whereas healthy guilt would say, hey dude, don't do that again. Okay, let's imagine you've relapsed into one of your bad habits. Healthy guilt would say to you, I relapsed. Oh man, that's pretty bad. Ouch. I didn't say ouch because I hit my head. I said ouch because of the thing. I feel awful. Okay, what can I do now to make it better? 1, stop scrolling, go for a walk and clear my head. 2, I need to realise this doesn't set me back to 0%. And 3, okay, I can then sit down and dissect what went wrong. Remember, it's proactive and it doesn't abuse you. Unhealthy guilt. I've relapsed again. Oh, that's terrible. I'm such an idiot. I keep trying, but nothing works. Everything I do fails. I'll never overcome this. I was 20 days clean. Now I've ruined it all. I'm such a failure. No proactive action to go forward. Unhealthy guilt just makes everything worse, no matter what you've done, and it just keeps you locked in your spiral of procrastination, self-loathing, shame. So Lewis, what can we do about this? I hear you asking. Well, there is an incredible psychotherapist called Aziz Kazipura who wrote a superb article outlining 5 ways we can healthily manage our guilt so we can free ourselves from these self-destructive loops. Okay, so you've done something that has made you feel guilty. Number 1, acknowledge and allow the guilt. Don't react to it, examine it. Slow down, and you won't want to, but sit with your thoughts and emotions to see what that voice of guilt is trying to tell you. Because your natural instinct will be to notice the guilt and think, oh my God, run, and distract yourself from the discomfort of it by scrolling or staying in the motion of action. Like I said, slow down and pay attention to, what do you notice? Are you uncomfortable? Do you have racing, anxious thoughts? Does your body feel restless in any way? Do you feel a tight stomach? Is your throat dry? But what you want to pay attention to most of all is the type of guilt that is speaking to you right now. Remember the difference between healthy and unhealthy guilt? Healthy guilt is going to be that voice in your head that is speaking to you from a calm and loving, non-judgmental place, wanting the best for you. Your unhealthy guilt is going to be chastising you, scolding you, judging you, saying things like, how could you have done this? You're such a failure. You're such a reprehensible human being. Whenever a judgment is included, it's unhealthy guilt, much like an angry parent. But the key is to just notice your guilt. You might even say to yourself out loud, oh, this is guilt. Because the thing to note is just because you feel guilty for something doesn't necessarily mean you've done anything wrong, as point 2 highlights. Number 2, identify the rules you've broken. This is where you pay attention to all the shoulds and should nots your guilt is making apparent to you. Now, just like we have healthy and unhealthy guilt, we also have healthy and unhealthy rules. Your rules are your inherent beliefs that guide your behaviour. Unhealthy rules are just unrealistic, perfectionistic standards. Healthy rules are those that steer you in the direction of becoming your best self. Unhealthy rules could include, I should never let friends down. I should always have 100% self-control. Healthy rules include, I don't eat junk food, or I take care of my health. I was going to clarify one more thing, but I just realised point 3 will do so for us. So, moving on. 3, determine if it's unhealthy or unhealthy guilt. Remember, healthy guilt involves realistic rules and self-love. Unhealthy guilt incorporates unrealistic rules and self-attack. And the cycle that plays out with unhealthy guilt, I just wanted to mention, is you convince yourself that if you feel bad enough, then you can atone for your sin. And the reason this doesn't lead to long-term behaviour change is because it comes from a place of fear. Criticising, judging, foisting loads of shame and guilt onto yourself won't make you change or feel motivated to change your behaviour. Now, lastly, the thing I wanted to clarify in the last section, but waited until now, is the easiest way to tell whether the voice in your head is healthy or unhealthy guilt is after you've highlighted the rule that the guilt wants to make apparent to you, ask yourself, okay, do you agree with this rule? If yes, it's healthy guilt, and there is a lesson to be learned from listening to that voice. However, if you don't agree with the rule because it's an unrealistic expectation or standard, then it's unhealthy guilt speaking to you. And you still have a lesson to learn, but it's a slightly different one. 2 more, number 4. Ooh, it rhymes. Understand the message. Very simply here, all you do after you've observed the guilt, not reacted to it, identified what rules you've broken and determined whether it's healthy or unhealthy guilt, that voice in your head, you simply ask yourself, what action is the guilt trying to get you to do or not do in the future? Remembering, if a judgment comes as an answer to this question and no proactive answer, then it's unhealthy guilt. And lastly, number 5, numero 5. Or how do you say 5 in Italian? Non lo so. Take new action. Listen, mate, you cannot beat, judge or berate yourself into behaviour change. We've covered that already. You need to act from a positive place if you want to change your behaviour. So when you hear that voice of unhealthy guilt begin to judge you in your head, stand up, walk away while saying, okay, this self-attack is not helpful, I can do so much better. And at the risk of getting a bit woo-woo, so get your sick buckets out, you need to disconnect from the feeling of guilt in your head and get into your heart. I know. Whoa, stay with me. Hear me out. And send the guilt as much love as you possibly can. Okay? And understand that whatever you've done is forgivable. There is nothing that is unforgivable. I'm going to get roasted for that in the comments, but you get my point. You might want to consider for your new action, okay, do you need to apologise to someone? Do you need to change a behaviour, a habit, or a way of relating to others? Do you need to create a new ritual or a new practice in order to help you feel calmer and more patient and clearer? And lastly, do you need to decide on a new action with the healthy guilt guiding you forward? Notice how liberating that feels. And lastly, you want to state a new proclamation for yourself in your new action with the sentence of, in my reality. So, in my reality, It's okay to say no when I want or need to. In my reality, it's okay for others to feel temporarily disappointed. And lastly, in my reality, I accept I won't have 100% self-control 24/7. Now, before we summarise and I give you a big fat kiss goodbye, there's one tiny more thing that I want to clarify. Now, what we just covered, taking new action, involves the process of setting new rules for yourself. But sometimes you're going to be more better off if you don't set new rules but just let go of old ones. For example, I should never feel angry. I should never feel anxious. I should never make a mistake. I should always know what to say. I should never hurt anyone's feelings. I should never upset anybody. I should always have 100% self-control 24/7. I should be able to predict all outcomes. I should obtain whatever it is you want now. Hopefully, while listening to that, you were thinking only a madman or an insane person would have such rules. But I guarantee you have a few of these, as do I. Mainly programmed from your childhood or just experiences you haven't unpacked. So, as mentioned, highlight your unhealthy rules, the rules you don't agree with and don't want to live up to, and just get rid of them. I'm excited to say I'm currently researching for a big video all about how to reprogram your most fundamental beliefs and thoughts, the ones that don't serve you, and how to reprogram your self-image. So if you want to see that video, drop a comment of a dolphin in the comments. Wait, I don't actually think there are dolphin emojis. A dragon. Moving on. So, in summary, guilt can be healthy and unhealthy. Unhealthy guilt does not serve you. Manage with guilt. Acknowledge and allow the guilt. Identify the rule or rules you've broken. Determine if the guilt is healthy or unhealthy. Understand the message and take new action. Thank you very much to Aziz Gazipura, who wrote the spellbounding article, and thank you for being alive and dedicating your time and attention to this video. Stay disciplined, playful and dangerous. Adiós muchachos y muchachas. Nos vemos muy pronto.